Hello and welcome to Prenam TV Business Segment. I am your host, Dennis Meliti. Today we have a guest and I'll just let her introduce herself. Welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be in Prenam TV. My name is Ngina Wagema and I'm the CEO of Bloom Africa, which is a human resource management consultancy firm located in Milimani.
Wow. Maybe you can give us a brief background about yourself and your business.
Okay. So I was working. Okay, I'm born again. I'm a wife and I'm a mother of 3. I was employed for 12 years in the civil service, and in 2014 we were retrenched. Actually, my last day in the office was December 21st, 2014. Now, my retrenchment came as a shock, especially when we were told that our salaries were, it was no longer tenable, as our employment was no longer tenable. So it was quite shocking. And that period between when we were given the notice and when the actual retrenchment took place, I remember we were running helter-skelter to try and just make sure that we are sorted. You have savings, you're looking at the loans that you can take. A number of us didn't have, we were living in rental houses, we had young children, so it was quite scary. And so by the time we actually left, one of the things that we had, between my husband and I, we were sure that it was okay. We had made peace with the fact that I was getting retrenched, and when I left the office on 21st December 2014, it was, for me, I'd say it was one of the happiest days in my life, because I was like, today is the first day of the rest of my life. Now I'm moving out and I'm free to think of other things to do.
Wow.
So when I left my employment, December was okay because everybody's at home in December. Then come January and you're alone. Everybody has gone to work and you're not going anywhere. You've got nowhere to go. Then the other thing is that at the end of the month, you're used to that sound in your phone that tells you salary has checked in. Now all of a sudden there's no salary that's checking in. So you're broke, then you're very bored because there's nothing you're doing. So I started looking for small things to do. One of the things I decided that I wanted to do, I'd been doing a bit of HR, and I was also lecturing, and I was doing risk assessment, especially profiling. I did a lot of profiling. So I decided I'm going to combine my skill set and set up a HR risk assessment company. And so I did that. I started now selling myself as a HR risk assessor. And as I did, so I met somebody in the bus. God is so gracious. I met somebody in the bus and we started talking. And this guy gave me tips, Consultancy 101 tips. So he told me, if you want to be a consultant, you need to register your business. Because one of the things that people look at when they're looking at your consultancy is how long the company has been in operation. So he says, register your business. So I got a lawyer, and we registered a business. So we registered Bloom Africa. Now, Bloom Africa has a story of its own, especially the name Bloom Africa. So before I was retrenched, I had a dream. And in the dream, there were people who were talking to me, and they're telling me, you need to discover the secret of greatness. And in the dream.
Wow.
And I kept asking, what is it? And they told me, consider the life cycle of a flower. And remember, with God, all things are possible. So I woke up and I was like, what do you mean life cycle of a flower? So I started Googling life cycle of a flower, what is special about it? And so I still did not understand what that dream meant until somebody sent a friend of mine an email. And then my friend sent me that email, and at the bottom it said, if a seed knew that it would spend days in the dark and wet soil before it blooms, it would never despise those days it spent inside the ground. So when I set up my business, I knew I wanted to call it Bloom Africa, because we are blooming.
Wow.
Yeah, and we are moving forward with the message that with God all things are possible.
Wow.
So we are blooming and knowing that with God all things are possible. So I registered Bloom Africa. We didn't have business for a while, with normal consultancies. And I remember, and at that point I knew that I needed an office, because you don't want to tell clients we meet in a hotel. You want to tell them we meet in an office. And so that's when I started seeing miracles happening. So my first miracle was my office. So it so happened that my brother-in-law had gotten to a point where he was tired of the office he was in, and he needed a new office. So our office just opened up one day. We were just told, come to this office, a really prime location, a nice big office, and very, very fair. It was very, very fair. So I set up my office. Then from there, when I set up my office, I started wondering now what to do. So I went to look for business. I went to some gentleman I was referred to, and I went and I told him, I'm Ngina, Wagema. I run a company called Blue Africa, and we are looking for opportunities in the human resource consultancy space, specifically human resource risk management. And the gentleman looked at me and he told me, Ngina, do you know the people who do my HR risk are more than anybody else in the company? So I really don't have anything for you here. Tell me something new or something else that you can do. And I said, oh, I also do recruitment. And I was like, oh, Ngina, recruiters are one in a million. There are so many. Why don't you think of something original? And I just sent a prayer to God and told him, God, I came all the way to be told this. But what that gentleman said next impacted my life and has impacted it ever since. He just told me, you know, Ngina, there are so many companies in Kenya that do not have human resource management or do not know how to navigate the human resource management space. Why don't you set up a company that will act as a human resource department in that company, so you outsource the service? And I thought to myself, you know, you have been really, really mean, but you have helped me. You have helped me out. I think now I can see Bloom Africa.
Wow.
So when I left his office, now I started marketing myself as an outsourced, to offer outsourced human resource management services. And we got our first client who was paying us 20,000 per month. I remember I used to wait for that 20,000 like, I don't know, I really, really used to wait for that money.
Wow.
So from there we got our second client, our third client, our fourth client, and we continued growing. So as we grew, now we started getting employees, we started getting staff to handle the different accounts. Then our business also expanded to doing consult. So we have the outsourced HR management service, where we post an account manager to companies that don't have human resource management. Then we also do the consultancy, the mainstream consultancy. That's the job evaluations, the job analysis, performance management systems. Then we also have a recruiting arm. We do recruitment. So our roles are diversified. So within the recruitment, that's where we have our risk, HR risk. So we do the background checks and everything as part of our recruitment package. So that has been our journey of grace.
Hey, wow.
Yes.
Wow. What a great journey. And now, from what I have seen, is that you have dealt with some big clients. I'm not going to mention it. You have rubbed shoulders with some big fish. How do you approach these big companies?
It's amazing what God has done for us and where He has brought us from to where we are today. So a lot of our clientele has been referral. We've had very many referral clients. We've been really blessed. And others, let me say, has been kubahatisha, where you call somebody. And I remember there's one particular client who we called. Actually, we called where I was right here, and I was sitting with one of my staff members. We were just discussing, and he said, "By the way, I have so and so's number." See, we called him, and we called him, and it just so happened that that day he gave us audience. He told us, "Come and see me." And one of the things I do is that I don't waste opportunity. When you tell me come and see me, I'll come and see you, and I come and see you followed by a host of angels, and declaring that where I step, I will possess. So when you allow me into your office, I'm coming to possess.
Wow.
So we went and we talked to that guy, and that's been like 3 years ago. 3 years back, he's been our client. We have one client, our very first client, we met 10 years ago. No, 16 years ago. Wow. When I was planning my wedding. And he was a service provider at my wedding. And at that time, there's something they messed up. They didn't do very well. And so for one of the functions before the wedding, we Kikuyus have got very many functions. So one of the functions before the wedding, there's something that they didn't do very well. And so we had a bad experience initially. Then when we're having the wedding, I called him and I told him, "Oh, by the way, I still want you to provide services for my wedding." And he was like, "Really?" And I was like, "Yes." He was so touched. Wow. So we gave him that space, and he did a brilliant job, and he's been doing a brilliant job ever since for all our functions. And so when I was down, he's the guy who lifted me up, because he's the guy who gave me the platform to start. Yeah, he's one who actually, I can say he gave Bloom Africa wings. Wow. Yeah, because he allowed us to get into his company. So by that time, he was no longer small; he was big. And he had gone countrywide, and he gave us that opportunity to just come in and experiment with my company, and we came in, and from there we were able to move into other companies without intimidation.
Wow.
Yes.
And in business, what would you say this is my major win? This is where I felt I have hit the jackpot.
Okay. I think my major win, and it's interesting that you've asked us question, because I've been seeking God and asking Him, "God, what is my purpose? What is my purpose in life?" Because one of the things I want this year is I want everything about me to be to the glory of God, so that when Bloom Africa walks into a company, people will know that it is a Christ-led company that has come in. And it is a company with a difference. It's a kingdom. We are dealing with a kingdom company. So so I've been asking God to give us as a company a spirit of excellence, so that when we go somewhere, we see the excellence. So one of my biggest wins in my career is managing to run the company with very little client attrition. It just so happened that we lost a number of our clients during COVID, but that was understandable because we were also retrenching for them, so we knew the situation. And then also working for companies that we never thought we'd ever work for, major companies and major brands. And then I think another big win for me, sorry, you asked for one win, but there have been so many. There have been so many wins.
It's evident.
So another win is you work for a client, they call you back. You work for a client, they call you back. That really gives me a lot of joy. Then we also do I don't know how I can explain it. When I have a position, and someone comes to mind, and I think so and so doesn't have a job, and I call them and I ask them, would you like to interview for this position? And they interview and they're successful and they get a job. That for me is epic. I feel so good. So I'm like, I'm asking God, is that my purpose? Maybe to lift up people and give them jobs. Because I have a guy that we employed this year, actually in March. We gave a job in March, and I knew him 6 years ago. I haven't spoken to him in 5 years, I think. So when the position came, I remembered him and I just called him and asked him, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I'm in Juakali. So I asked him, are you interested in a job? He's like, yes, I'm interested. He came, he did the interview, he passed. We gave him the job.
Wow.
So it makes me feel so happy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's so good. You know, anytime you find an opportunity to uplift someone's life,
it's a big thing.
Yeah, it's a big thing.
Yeah.
It's really a big thing. And what are some of the challenges that even before Corona, before COVID-19, what are some of the challenges that where you feel that this was a big challenge, but I went through it and I overcame it?
Okay, I think one of the biggest challenge is one time when we were called to do some work for a company, and but that company had they already had an outcome that they wanted. So we were supposed to do a certain analysis and come up with recommendations, but they had an outcome that they expected. So when we did our analysis, it didn't match their outcome. And when I gave the documents, I kept asking God, because it became a bit, we got to a point where it was not very nice. The company, I felt they didn't treat us very well. And I kept telling God, you need to vindicate me. You need to vindicate me. And the interesting thing is that, so there was a change in management, and a new management came and they asked for our document.
Wow.
And when they asked for our document, the comment they made is, it's almost like you're working here, because you've articulated the issue so well.
Wow.
And I knew right there that God had vindicated me.
Wow.
It was a big, it came to a point where the math is low, where anything that can go wrong would go wrong. On the day we are starting the analysis, we don't have power in the office, the system breaks down. It was a mess.
Wow.
But God came through for us and He vindicated us. So one of the things that I really want to, I've purposed to do this year, which has been a challenge, is just making sure that making sure that the service that we are giving is a service that is above board, is above par. So it's continuous learning. It's been a period of continuous learning and continuously sharpening my staff so that they keep up with me. I find a lot of CEOs, we have all these ideas in our heads, but we're not communicating them to our staff. So when a staff member does something, you're like, why didn't you do this way? When you could have trained them before. So what I did is, and I'd say thanks to COVID, I was able to release my staff into deep end and start teaching them from there. So I can say we have now sharper, better equipped staff to deal with different aspects of HR.
Wow, wow. And with that now, I think we'll take a short break. We'll be right back after the break.